What's up? It's your boy Chuck coming at you with some fantasy NASCAR advice this weekend. Pocono Raceway, 160 lap race, stage breakdown, 50 laps, 50 laps, 60 laps. And man, do we got chaos this week. Got your pole sitter, Kevin Harvick, starting 29th because he failed post-qualifying inspection, along with 12 other drivers like Kyle Busch, Jimmy Johnson, Clint Bowyer, Kyle Larson, Joey Logano, Casey Kane, Bubba Wallace. I mean, we got so much fantasy value to be had at the tail end of this field. I ain't even looking at the top half of this field. I mean, yeah, Truex Jr. starts in 8th, and he will probably lead a portion of the race. But based off of Kevin Harvick's practice times and the way that Kevin Harvick qualified, Kevin Harvick's my favorite to win this race. Kyle Busch will probably give him some competition, but I don't feel like Kyle Busch will have the car to catch him this week. You got Daniel Suarez basically giving the pole to him because Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick both failed inspection. I don't see him holding the first position. Denny Hamlin starting second. I don't see much fantasy value to be had out of him. Ryan Newman starts in the top 10. He doesn't have a top 10 finish in the last 4 years. Alex Bowman. I mean, I feel like the Chevys are just a hair off this year. I wouldn't go with Alex Bowman. I mean, you got Matt Kenseth starting 11th, Chris Buescher starting in 12th, and yeah, Chris Buescher did win this race 2 years ago on a rain-shortened race, but Chris Buescher doesn't have very much fantasy upside right now. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. 17th. I don't really like that pick. I mean, you got guys like Kyle Weatherman, Reed Sorensen, B.J. McLeod, Timmy Hill. All these guys that always finish between 30th and 40th, all starting 23rd, 24th, 25th. So it's like, how can you put any one of these guys in your lineup if they're going to lose fantasy value? If they finish 35th and start 23rd, you lost 12 points. Like, it's not a guy that's going to be in my lineup. Ross Chastain is qualified in 22nd, but Greg Galding qualified for him, so he's got to start at the back of the field. He's probably going to stay back there for a good portion of the race. There's not much fantasy value to be had in this top 25, 30 cars. I feel like you got to go to Kyle Busch starting in 28th, Kevin Harvick starting in 29th, and work off of that. I mean, I feel like Kevin Harvick is going to win this race, so Kevin Harvick's going to be a lock in every one of my lineups. So if I'm rolling with Kevin Harvick and his teammates, Eric Almirola and Clint Bowyer, both failed inspection with him, I mean, Clint Bowyer ran strong here 8 weeks ago. He did finish 20th, but even if he finished 20th today, that's still what? He starts 31st, so he still get 11 fantasy points of positive value plus finishing in 20th. So Clint Bowyer is another guy who's probably going to make it on my lineup because he's got the same setup as Kevin Harvick, and damn, these Fords are fast. Kyle Larson, I mean, he ran strong here 8 weeks ago, finished second. He's starting off in the 32nd position. I mean, he's a strong candidate, but it's going to be very hard to put like Kevin Harvick and Kyle Larson on your same lineup because they're so expensive, just like Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. I mean, you're going to have to get some low price guys for that. Eric Almirola, another guy I'm extremely confident about this weekend. Guy finished 7th here in June, has only gotten stronger every week. He is Kevin Harvick and Clint Bowyer's teammate, rocking the same Ford. I expect to see that 10 car in the top 5. He's going to be there. Jimmy Johnson, he's been off of his game a little bit, but he's always a good option. I mean, there's one thing about Pocono where you can go off sequence on your pit strategies and with the fuel mileage and pit differently than everybody else and possibly win the race if there's not a late caution. So I expect Jimmy Johnson to take this chance. I mean, if it's there. Unless he's got the strong car and he can make it, Jimmy Johnson is a solid play. Bubba Wallace starting in 39th. He finished dead last 8 weeks ago because he wrecked out. He's a little bit of a rookie, but I feel like Bubba Wallace has enough upside to me, just like Casey Kane in starting dead last. Casey Kane's won here twice before, but 2 out of his last 3 races he hasn't even finished. So Casey Kane and Bubba Wallace are big question marks, but they're both pretty cheap. I mean, yeah, they're both cheap enough to where you can put them both in your lineup and then center that lineup around Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick, or just a Kevin Harvick, Clint Bowyer, Eric Almirola, Casey Kane, and Bubba Wallace, you know. So, and then you got guys like Ryan Blaney, who, I mean, that guy won this race a year ago, qualified on the pole in June, finish 6th. I expect a strong top 10 out of him. He's driving a Ford. I mean, guy's got speed. So my fantasy lineup this weekend, I mean, it's going to be Kevin Harvick, Eric Almirola, Clint Boyer, Ryan Blaney, Bubba Wallace, and Casey Kane. I'm really wanted to go with Harvick and Busch in the same lineup too. So I did a second lineup, and I put Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch because I feel like they're going to be competing for the lead or for the win. Austin Dillon, Paul Menard, Casey Kane, and Bubba Wallace. All of those guys are starting 28th or worse, and if they all can finish in the top 15, expect a payday. All right. Hopefully you liked what you see. Josh Kowalchuk, man. Let me know. Have a good one.